You're listening to the Ballet Piano Podcast, lifting the lid on dance accompaniment.
Hello listeners, welcome back to the Ballet Piano Podcast. I'm Chris Hobson. To the left is Akiko Hobson.
Hello.
To the right is Matt Gregory.
Hello.
And straight in front, centre stage, Mr. Yao. Hello everyone. How are we all doing?
Yeah, great. Very well. Yeah.
Good week, bad week, indifferent?
Busy. Always busy.
Always busy.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I always want to book you to come and work with me. It's like, oh, I can't. I'm so busy.
She does an 8-day week.
She does an 8-day week. It's amazing because your pronouns are he and him, and then she does an 8-day week. You're no wonder I can't sleep at night in this PC world. Anyway, welcome to First Date Nerves.
Ooh.
We've all been there.
Let's explain what this is first. This phrase has come from our friend Jonathan, and it's when as a musician you have a teacher for the first time, and as a teacher you have a musician that you've never worked with for the first time.
Yes.
And he said when you go into that class, it's like you've got first date nerves. And how do you overcome that, and how do you prepare for that? Did
you ever have a way of preparing for a first date?
Do you prepare first date?
I used to.
Do you?
I went on a couple of dates. Like,
are you digressing?
A little bit, yeah, but I'm putting it into context. I'm thinking about how were my first dates like with a woman, like my first date, well, like my first times with a teacher in the studio before we start.
Can I ask, what did you prepare for our first date?
For our first date? Well, you asked me, didn't you, I think? So,
did I?
Yes, you did. Get on microphone.
I do not remember.
Okay. I know you've got a baby attached to you. Oh, Hazel's here, by the way. So if you hear the odd, the baby's here this week as well. I think I've approached new teachers in a way that I would have approached first dates. Like, I've got a set series of questions that I'll ask a teacher the first time I play for them. So I go in, I introduce myself. Nice to meet you. How are you doing? And the first question is, what do you not want me to play? Have you got anything that you don't want to hear?
You ask that?
I ask that, yeah, because
do you?
If you've got a teacher who detests Elton John, for example, or La Bayadere, they've danced it 37,000 times, but you don't know the person. You don't want to I don't want to throw it into class with them and upset them before I've even started. So that's usually my first question. Nice to meet you. I've got a relatively varied repertoire that I can throw in, but what do you not want to hear in the next hour and 15 minutes? It is. Matt, you've got your head in your hands, but honestly, that's one of the first questions that I ask.
I've got a huge repertoire. Anything you don't want to hear?
No, it was relatively large. But I had the privilege to play for Sarah Lamb a couple of months ago while she was doing the teacher's course for the Royal Ballet, and she came into a place where I happened to be working at the time to do a practice, the school in the Western Hemisphere, to do the practice teaching class. And I was what do you not want to hear? Because I thought that was a good.
What did she say? I'm curious.
I'm very open for anything. I really like all the classical ballet stuff. So I didn't play any classical ballet. And then she really liked, what was it? Sleepy Lagoon, Desert Island Disc, and there was a couple of other theme tunes from radio shows like The Archers and things like that. And she came and she's like, at the end of the she said, you're testing me now because you're playing all the radio tunes. So play some more and we'll see if I can guess them. She was great. I loved her. But and that fear of the unknown for a new teacher, are they going to set quicker than they want? It's a bit like the first time you switch the lights off, isn't it? It's very scary. Well, it is. It can be very, very scary. And the annoying thing is, you've got so many people who are there watching you do it.
Yeah. If I've got a teacher that I've never played for, I'll just get there a couple of minutes early just to have a chat with them, introduce myself, and they introduce themselves. And then you just sort of have a little chat for a couple of minutes.
Is there anything that you particularly like? That's another question as well. I'll follow it up with after what you don't like.
If they're a bit distant or if they're really...
try to know the person.
Yeah.
And then you get the teacher that says, I'm not really very good with counts, or I don't know a lot about music.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's absolutely okay. It's like, don't tell me if it's a 2/4 or don't tell me if it's a 6/8.
Yeah.
I'll watch and I will listen. And if you can demonstrate your first 8 counts at the correct tempo... and even just sing something, then I've got it from that. Then I can spend the rest of the time while you're teaching the class and teaching the exercise. I can spend the rest of my time going through the repertoire going, okay, this will work for this. I'll listen to if you're going to say I want 8 counts in the middle or, port de bras at the end or whatever.
But that you can say to the new teachers. But if somebody who is very, very experienced teacher and you say that, but they already established their own way of marking things and it's very difficult for them to change.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I mean, no, I'm only saying that for sometimes a teacher will say to you, oh, I'm not very musical.
All right, okay, yeah.
So then you go, it's fine. But I'd still ask the teacher, what do you not want to hear and what do you like? What are your musical preferences? I think because when I was in the contemporary world, like when I very, very, very first started, I heard somebody ask a teacher that question. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And also sometimes it could help you broaden your repertoire. I mean, maybe not right then because you're not going to go and sight read a load of new stuff in class, but you can go, I didn't think about this or that, or take you down a different path a little bit.
I mean, I played for a dancer recently who was teaching at a ballet school, and she's an ex-Rambert company, and she's a really musical dancer, and her class was really musical, but her setting, she didn't know what to ask for. And I was like, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
And she didn't realise it, but she set her plie on a 2/4, but it had some rhythm in there. It wasn't legato.
Okay.
So I played something a bit like a habanera for the plie.
Yeah.
And it had lots of body because it was quite contemporary bar. It had lots of bend in it and lots of lovely port de bras.
Well, yeah, because if you
and it was nice and slow and drawn out, like a plie tempo. But it had just a bit of spice in there.
It's got the rhythm on. It's got the rhythm in the accompaniment with
and
the legato.
She set that. She sang it, and that's what I played. But she didn't know what she was doing. She didn't even realise it was on a 2 instead of a 3. And her whole class went forward like that. And then her tondu, because it had a contemporary edge as opposed to being purely classical. I just ended up improvising or choosing a tune and then changing up the rhythm or the style, and it was a great class. And that was the first time I'd ever played for, and I've known this dancer for years. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, because that's not how I thought you would set a class, but it was still great. I really enjoyed it, yeah.
Good for you.
Matt and Akiko, do you get the first date nerves things when you go in to play for somebody? Because I used to be really open for it back in the day, and I think I've become slightly institutionalized over the last few years because I've stopped doing it as much. So now I'm open.
You're pointing, Matt.
I'm open to doing it,
Because
but
I've got something to say.
I'm nearly there, Matt. Just give me a second. Okay, right, yeah. I will do it, but I'm much more anxious now than I used to be.
I'm the opposite.
You get excited.
When I started and I had no repertoire, I didn't know any tunes and I couldn't play, I didn't have confidence in my own ability. That's when I would get nervous with new teachers.
Right.
But now I play so many different open classes on the circuit when you never know from one week to the next who's going to cover for them. It could be somebody you've never met. And the same at the companies have all sorts of guest teachers. And because I freelance, I play pretty much everywhere. You never know who's going to rock up to teach.
That's
and
true.
so
Yeah.
I quite like it. It doesn't faze me as much as it used to do.
If I know that I'm playing for this new person in advance, I actually do my own research by asking other musicians.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I texted you a few times in the past, does he or she mark quickly? What's tune?
What's your Retmucker made of? Like?
Yeah,
Absolute stallion.
Fussy, but brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. So, what tune do they like? So you kind of prepare yourself.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah. So
or you go on the YouTube and look at people. If it's in a company, you can go on and look at them doing the World Ballet Day classes and things like that. Sometimes you can find some nuggets on the internet or watch them on a YouTube page or something.
Yeah, if I know the teacher's name, I'll just maybe quickly Google them to find out what companies they've come from or what their career has been, and that sort of informs you about how they might set.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Actually, what we could do now, I had just this second thought of this. In the pandemic world, there was so many people who were doing stuff online, wasn't there? Yeah. And everyone's got stuff all on their YouTube page, and so not YouTube, Instagram page and things like that. So I'm sure we could probably find most teachers now and find them setting stuff on YouTube, on Instagram from as we come out of pandemic back into the real world.
Yeah. I once had a teacher, actually a few months ago, it was a guest teacher. I don't know what background he was from, but he had a very different way of setting ballet class. Basically, he comes to me and say, plie or tendu, and he want me to play some sort, and he marks. So I don't know what move he's going to make. He just said, play tendu, and I make the introduction, and with my music, he set the exercise.
Oh, wow.
So it's really up to me to provide what sort of music.
Wow.
The tempo, the flavor.
Yeah. And then if he wants slow or faster, he will just give me a gesture that he wants slow or something. But he pretty much kind of set with whatever I'm playing, which was a little bit nervous for me because I normally get the clue from the steps to choose.
Same.
But I had to choose the tune. I had to choose the accent, which was unusual.
A bit like out of the corps de ballet and straight into prima ballerina mode.
I felt like I'm center of the world, yeah.
Like,
well, you are, darling.
but just for an example, like the tendu from first position, people can either want it really slow or a little bit brighter. If you have no idea.
Yeah, do you go 3? Do you go 4? And then if you're doing that, what sort of 3 do you go? Do you go for like a languid slow waltz?
Yeah.
Do you go for a jazz waltz? Do you go for a slightly brighter? There was somebody when I worked at Elmhurst who came to do an unset class for the 3rd years, and I think he was from the Royal Ballet, but I can't remember his name. I've got no idea who it was. But he just wanted 2 chords for every introduction. So it was like chord 2, dominant 7th, and then we'd go into the exercise. So there was no real introduction and preparation. Oh. So he told me, and I was like, I hadn't done that before. I was like, okay, I'll do it. But how are the students going to know what they're going to do? Because he didn't tell them. So it was just like, yum, bum, dun, 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 dun. That's what it was. There was no clue from the introduction. So the introduction was the same for every exercise, regardless whether it was whether it was jeté, rond de jambe, grand battement, plie. Everything was the same. It felt really odd. I didn't massively enjoy it.
How long did it take the students to cotton on? Or they didn't?
Let's say they did it really quickly. They didn't.
If you're enjoying this episode, then why not visit the website balletpianopodcast.com and join the mailing list. You can access past episodes, transcripts, music playlists, and so much more. It will ensure you never miss new episodes or updates. That's balletpianopodcast.com.
So, David, what's it like for you when you see you've got a pianist that you've never worked with, that you've never met before?
It's similarly exciting, actually, to be honest, because it's like an introduction. You don't know that person. You don't know how they think. And we do similar things. We ask other teachers, have you had this person play for you before? Or you go and listen to them play for somebody else, those kind of things. Or you just talk to them. You say, and then, I say, I love tunes. And a variety of tunes, not just classical ballet. Anything that's interesting to me is really exciting, and I think it's important for the students to learn from dancing to different types of music. That's what I really go for. But for any novice teacher, the most important thing is to be clear. Yeah, and what you said before, your description about that person that you were playing for, the person. Yeah. She did exactly the right thing. She demonstrated and she sang what she wanted. And even if you're not, you don't have a variety of tunes on your head, because, the whole being in front of a whole class is quite daunting sometimes, and especially when you're talking to a musician as well, and perhaps that's not your forte. You just sing what you know, even if it's the same tune but at different speeds. It doesn't matter, as long as you're giving the musician an indication of what you want. That's really important.
Yeah.
Have you ever had first date went completely wrong?
Yes.
And how
is that in the studio or a real day?
How do you handle it?
I got it. Sorry.
That was in another school I was in. And
which one? You've worked in all of them.
Yes, but one that we've both worked at.
Oh, okay. I know what you mean.
And it was a time when we were auditioning new pianists, and you just said, oh, there's a new pianist, and, that was all, that we got the information that I got. So getting in there was quite a challenge, especially when I can tell within the first 4 bars or first 4 counts what's going to happen.
Yeah.
and you can tell through the way that they're playing whether whether someone's nervous or not, or whether they feel confident enough just to go with what you're doing out on a limb. Even if they haven't had a lot of experience, you can tell if they're going to go with you or not.
Yeah.
And so it becomes kind of like scary when you halfway through you realise an exercise it's not going to work.
Oh God.
And then you have to start counting over the top.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's horrible.
But it doesn't feel nice. But it teaches you both, the pianist and the teacher, where your boundaries are.
Yeah.
And then you go up to that boundary.
Yeah.
And you don't try and push them beyond, because we completely understand being in front of everybody else. It's really stressful when you're trying to do one thing and you're being watched by a whole load of other people who are actually in the class.
Yeah.
So it works both ways.
See, those audition classes are the worst. I don't know if you've... I mean, you've done it, Dave. You've worked everywhere. You've had loads of interviews and auditions. I've had a few. But when you know that you're in there, you've got the students or the dancers are judging you. Like as a musician, the teachers are judging you. And then you've got a music panel and a couple of artistic dance panel that are all judging everything you do, be it even your posture behind the piano, the way that, the way that you put your hands down on the keyboard, how early do you prepare? Do you do it? It's a really difficult situation to be in.
Sort of similar for me, but not, because I'm freelance. You're good enough if you sort of get asked back. You don't really audition for the job. Someone's just got your number. A book has got your number from somewhere, and they say, "Oh, they've worked at this company. Oh, let's try them out." They do. They sort of try you out unofficially, and then of course the dancers and the teachers, everybody feeds back. It either gets around the building whether they like you or not, or
true.
and then the testament is that you get the call the following week. But well, like you were saying, David, sometimes you just have to choose a tune. Like you say, you've got 40 people looking at you. You've got to choose something that's just going to get you through that exercise. It might not be necessarily as a musician what you wanted to play, but sometimes you just think, I've got to play something. I've never met this teacher before. This is what I'm going to do. It might not be quite right, but then we've got to get this next minute and a half out the way until we can move on to the next exercise.
Exactly.
So for us, we need, like, from a teacher, as a musician sitting behind the piano or the keyboard, what we need to know the tempo, we need to know the time signature and the phrasing of it. We need to know whether it's, we need to know the articulation. Is it legato? Is it staccato? Is it this? Is it that? And then we can put it together, can't we? We need that, and that's the communication that we need from a teacher.
Yeah.
What do you need? What communication helps you, David, when you're teaching?
When I'm singing, I tend to sing my exercises. So I'm saying the steps or the counts for the student's sake, but I'm actually giving the tempo at the same time.
Yeah.
And when you then start, your musician starts to then play, you can tell within as I said, the first four counts whether they've actually got that information or not. If it's immediately apparent that they haven't got it, I start actually counting on top of that music, so to help the pianist to understand, to support what I've just said.
Like, we've worked together for a long time on and off, haven't we?
Yeah.
But now still, like, you do great things with communication and eye communication. Like, you still, I think you have said it in previous episodes, I forget which, but you still give a glance over 2 bars or 4 counts or whatever before the end of the exercise to know that we're all going to be together. And then, if you've instructed the class that it's going to go to the second side, but you decide it isn't, you always give enough notice in advance so that we can finish musically. It's not like you let, it all falls apart halfway through. You give enough warning. So I think that's another one for a pianist to look at. Is like I think eye contact, well, for us, it's very important. So to have we said it before, like half an eye on a dancer, half your eye, left eye on the dancer and right eye on the teacher, or vice versa. So you want both in your sight as much as you can, don't you?
That's a really good point.
It's one of the things that you can read music in class, but really your repertoire should be at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Because you're being cued left, right, and centre. Dancer's coming from the corner. Teacher wants to stop. Oh no, we're going to do a balance second side. It's all in the non-verbal, isn't it?
Yeah. So what happens on those occasions where, let's say, you're auditioning something for a job, and somebody puts a new piece of music in front of you, and you're asked to sight read it, and in addition to that, the teacher is new to you as well. What's that like?
Hell.
You just have to do it, don't you?
Just do it and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Right.
if you're lucky, you're going to get presented with something from the classical repertoire. So you might not play all the notes, but that doesn't matter. If it's even if it's a school or a company job, you don't have to. We said this in the playing the ballet repertoire thing. You don't play all the notes because you're playing somebody else's arrangement of a ballet score.
Yeah. And what do you focus on then? Is it the rhythm or the tune?
I focus on not to stop.
Yeah, don't ever stop. Try and keep the rhythm going. I mean, very, very basic fundamentals. Keep the rhythm going with your left hand in some way. Keep the melody with your right hand. Bang it out as loud as possible. Try and get the harmonic things right. The chords right. And everything.
Or any orchestral cues that are on the score that dancers listen out for.
Yeah.
I think I once I was freelancing years ago, and then I went in for the rep class, and then the teacher was very experienced teacher, and he said, I don't think you can sight read this tune. So I've got this recording. So if you want to go home, I totally understand. So I said, well, I'm here anyway. So let me just have a look and then have a go. And it was the betting scene from Rake's Progress, and I didn't know the ballet, and I never seen the score, but I had a good go. But if I can be honest, I didn't look at the dancers at all. I was looking at the score and then just kept going.
It's hard.
But it worked. They were okay. They were okay with me playing. So you just have to keep going no matter what. I think.
And then when they stopped to rehearse the dances, you would study and study, and the more you play it, the better it gets throughout that hour.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I accidentally put myself down for this is a few years pre-COVID, this one, for Call of Swan Lake, and it was with our graduate year. I was like, this will be fine. I hadn't looked at the right-hand side of the page and seen that they'd been with the parent company for a while, so they were pretty much ready to go with the last act of Swan Lake. So then the rehearsal director came over from the company. I was like, okay, we'll play from the top of the last act and we'll just go through so they can feel the act. Okay, it's been 8 years since I played a full Call of Swan Lake. Here we go. Especially when it gets the swans after the I got through it, but I wish I'd have known a little bit earlier. This hankers back to the Q&A, doesn't it? When did you last go into a rehearsal and prepared? Thank you, wife.
Didn't you say Errol sprung that on you once?
Errol sprung that on, yeah.
Oh, we'll just listen to Chris play it.
Yeah, it wasn't that. It was the Sleeping Beauty or something like that, yeah. Yeah, because we've been really out on the Raz the night before.
So
so he wanted to just waste 7 minutes of his class. I miss Errol.
Oh.
Bless him.
Yeah.
It's communicate. I don't know. That's the other thing, isn't it? There is no definitive answer because everyone's different of what we want. Like what I want is different to what Akiko and Matt want.
I think as long as you both realise that you are a human being, and just be normal,
have respect for each other.
A thumbs up goes a long way. That means start. That means stop. And
actually, the title of this episode, "First Date Nerves." Meeting a teacher, I don't know, the modern generation, it's all, we were talking about this with some younger friends, it's all online dating now, isn't it? So that first time in a studio with a new teacher as a pianist is basically you've both swiped right and you've agreed to meet up for something to eat, or you've agreed to go out for a coffee or a drink or a walk or something like that, and then you're going to hope that something good comes out of it.
But for example, the further along in your career you go and the gigs get better, the jobs get better, the teachers get more high caliber, you're playing at the companies, like playing for David for the first time, with your reputation preceding you, there's nerves there. Yeah. And it's like playing for Loiper at the company for the first time.
Scary.
It is.
I actually have a bit of an advantage. So, when I started, I was still like early 20s and I was still student, and being Asian, my English wasn't really good, was still not good. So when I turned up to the studio...
It's better than Chris's.
So true.
That Mancunian English.
Like most studio, when I turn up first time, like ballet mistress, ballet teacher, whoever, they look at me and they already decided I'm inexperienced young Asian pianist.
Oh, yes.
I think they have this like a stereotypical okay, don't worry, we're going to mark it like, I'm going to mark it clear. And if you don't understand, just ask me anything. So their expectation is so low to begin with me. So after a couple of exercises, they're just happy.
Yeah.
So I can start from very low. So I don't really need to get nervous because they're not expecting much from me.
Sounds like how we got together. Aim low and hope for the best. Like for you, not for me. I know I'm still really punching way above my weight here. Well, listen, I think that's first dates. I'd swipe right for you, Matt. Anyways, so we're going to sign off now, but join us next week where we're going to be in conversation with Rose Alice, who is the artistic director of the International Arts Collective, ballerina, choreographer, just all round
movement director,
just all round
creative,
gorgeous human being.
Wonderful.
So that'll be next week's episode, or the next episode if you're not listening in real time. So for now, it's goodbye from me.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.